You don't need another strategy. You don't need another indicator. And you definitely don't need another YouTube video promising easy profits. What you need is to face something most traders spend years avoiding. Because if you're serious about making a living from trading, then understand this clearly. This is not a game of prediction. This is a game of psychological survival. And most people fail long before the market ever tests their skill. Here's the illusion. People believe trading is about finding the perfect setup, the perfect entry, the perfect system. They think somewhere out there is a method that removes uncertainty. So they chase it. They jump from strategy to strategy. They tweak indicators. They obsess over win rates. They convince themselves that one more adjustment will finally unlock consistency. But that belief is the very thing that keeps them stuck, because it's built on a lie. The market doesn't reward perfection. It punishes emotional instability. And here is the truth that separates professionals from everyone else. You don't make a living from trading by being right. You make a living from trading by being consistent under pressure. That's it. And consistency is not built in charts. It's built in your mind. This is where things get uncomfortable. Because now the problem isn't the market anymore. It's you. Let's go deeper. Every time you enter a trade, something happens internally. There's tension, expectation, fear, hope. Your mind starts projecting outcomes before they happen. And without realizing it, you begin reacting emotionally instead of executing objectively. This is the silent killer. Not bad strategy, not bad analysis, but emotional interference. Most traders don't notice it because it feels normal. They feel justified in moving stop losses. They feel justified in overtrading after a loss. They feel justified in taking profits too early because something feels off. But what they're actually doing is abandoning it. Discipline in subtle ways. And subtle mistakes compound faster than obvious ones. Professionals don't eliminate emotion. That's impossible. They learn to operate independently from it. That's a very different skill. It means executing your plan even when your mind is uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable, because that discomfort is where growth happens. But most people avoid it. They seek relief instead of control. And that's why they never cross the line from trader to professional. Here's the mistake most people make. They treat trading like an opportunity. Professionals treat trading like a responsibility. An opportunity invites excitement. A responsibility demands discipline. And the moment you approach trading with excitement, instead of control, you've already lost your edge. Because excitement leads to impulsiveness. Impulsiveness leads to inconsistency. And inconsistency destroys accounts. Let me make this clear. You don't need to trade more. You need to think it better. You don't need to catch every move. You need to protect your capital. Because in trading, survival comes before profit. Always. There's a line you need to understand. Amateurs focus on what they can make. Professionals focus on what they can lose. That one shift changes everything. It changes how you enter trades, how you manage risk, how you respond to losses. It turns trading from a gamble into a structured process. And that's where the real transformation begins. Not in strategy, but in mindset. Now let's talk about something most traders quietly struggle with, but rarely admit: control. Or, more specifically, the illusion of control. When you sit in front of your charts, it feels like you're in charge. You analyze, you decide, you execute. It creates a sense of authority. But the market doesn't care about your authority. It doesn't respect your analysis. It doesn't respond to your confidence. And that disconnect creates internal conflict, because your brain wants certainty. It wants to feel in control. But trading is built on uncertainty. So what happens? You start forcing control where it doesn't exist. You overanalyze. You hesitate. You second-guess your entries. Or worse, you try to predict every outcome. This is where traders break. Because instead of accepting uncertainty, they fight it. And fighting uncertainty leads to emotional exhaustion. You start doubting yourself. You start questioning your strategy. You start feeling like something is missing, but nothing is missing. You're just trying to control something that cannot be controlled. Here's the truth. You will never control the market, but you can control your behavior inside it. And that is the only control that matters. Let me explain this deeper. Every professional trader operates with a framework, not just a strategy, a framework, a defined way of thinking, a set of rules that governs every decision, not just entries and exits, but risk, frequency, timing, and most importantly, restraint. Because restraint is where most traders fail. They know what to do, but they don't do it consistently. Why? Because discipline is uncomfortable. It requires patience. It requires sitting out when there's nothing to do. It requires accepting losses without an emotional reaction. And most people don't train for that. They train for action, not inaction. But in trading, doing nothing is often the highest level of skill. Think about that. The ability to not trade when there's no edge, the ability to wait without anxiety, the ability to miss opportunities without regret. That's control. And without it, consistency is impossible. Let's talk about losses, because this is where most traders are exposed, not when they win, but when they lose. A loss triggers something deep. It challenges your identity. It makes you question your ability. It creates urgency to recover. And that urgency is dangerous because it leads to revenge trading, overtrading, risking more than you should, all in the name of getting back to even. But professionals don't chase recovery. They accept loss as part of the system. They expect it. They prepare for it. They build their entire approach around it because they understand something critical. Losses are not the problem. Uncontrolled reactions to losses are. This is where discipline becomes non-negotiable. Because without discipline, your strategy doesn't matter. Your analysis doesn't matter. Your potential doesn't matter. Everything collapses under pressure. And pressure is constant in trading. So if you want to make a living from this,